What's up, guys? It's Coach Gaglione here. It's another edition of the Powerlifting for the People podcast. I'm your host, Coach Gaglione. We were a special guest on the line today. Lisa, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
So Lisa is the resident meal prep lady. Can you, for the people that maybe aren't aware of who you are, and for the live audience today, can you just let people know who you are and then what you got going on right now?
We're going to talk about some meal prep, how to meal prep, the easiest way to bulk meal prep, how to stop wasting money when you're meal prepping. Just make it easy. You guys spend a lot of time doing what you're doing and being healthy about it, and this is a tool. This is a tool that you need.
Can you maybe just also just give people a little insight on like what you do like day to day, like why like you're here today and like why you're talking
kitchen?
about? Yeah. So you have like a meal prep service, right?
Yeah.
So yes, you
So
want to just
I
tell us
have
about
a meal
that?
prep service, prepping almost every day for clients, and then I'm here with Coach newly for the past month, enjoying life. So yeah, it's good. Everything is good. Lots of cooking, lots of recipes, lots of doing stuff with food, easy ways, healthy ways, cleaner ways.
Awesome. And so we're going to go through a couple different bullet points of like how to shop, how to plan, why nutrition is important, why prepping is important, and some strategies for that. And I know you're recently kind of getting involved in powerlifting, and maybe you want to give us a little insight on like what your kind of athletic training background is as well.
I was a runner for years, a lot of years, all through high school, part of college, got married, had a family, started cooking, stopped running. Got involved with CrossFit about 5 years ago, and just realized that my love for just lifting heavy was probably more predominant than jumping all around. So I wound up here.
And probably for most of us listening, it's probably similar. Many people have gotten to powerlifting and strength training through many different avenues. I think another important point I wanted to have Lisa on because, many people maybe listening, they might be, whether it be with a significant other, or they might have families or children of their own. So when you start to kind of throw in kind of meal prepping and cooking into the mix, it is really like a team effort, I believe. So I think getting other people on board, getting your spouse or significant other on board, getting your family involved, I think is key. And again, I don't really, I don't have any children and stuff yet, so I want to get someone else on that has some more experience in that department, because I think sometimes I have found, I don't know if sometimes parents use their kids as, I need to have snacks on hand, I need to have kind of cookies and stuff, and you kind of hear like stuff like that, and they start to kind of maybe use their kids as an excuse sometimes for like why they can't eat healthy or they don't have time to. So maybe first jumping off that point, maybe the first thing maybe we could talk about is why prepping is important, and then how like nutrition maybe plays a role, or how it's played a role in your training, and then even like what you're doing right now.
So whether it's you and a spouse, you and a significant other, or you're a large family, small family, doesn't matter. If you pick one day that you're gonna prep your meals or whatnot, you can not only prep for yourself, but you can have the week done. You can get snacks done for the kids. You can get your base of your dinners done, that all you need to do is say, heat up your vegetables or make whatever your carb is on the side or whatnot, and you can get your meats done for your meals. Everything can get done in bulk, and everybody can help. It's the easiest thing. It's taking what everybody likes and just doing it all in one shot. It doesn't have to be fancy. Fancy makes it complicated. Everything is about being simple. I don't care if it's December or if it's July. Dig out your grill. Your grill is your friend. That's the easiest thing. You can do pounds and pounds of chicken, pounds and pounds of steak, all on the grill, all in one shot. Find a rub that you like. It's great for flavoring. You don't have to worry about added sugars or calories or anything by doing a sauce. Throw it all on the grill, grill the whole thing up in 15, 20 minutes, and then divvy it up how you want.
All right, so we got a couple of big points. So first thing I thought was great for people that are really busy is like just pick one day. So I think just having a process and picking a day. So if you have if you are not somebody that has a consistent schedule, you may need to figure out what that day is going to be. So if like there's police, fire, military, maybe nurses that have like a rotating schedule, once you kind of know your schedule for the week, I think it's important to kind of pick out that day. If you have a consistent schedule, for a lot of people, like, okay, like maybe Sunday afternoon or whatever it is, or maybe it's Wednesday night or whatever, if you have like a kind of a break, maybe you just have a consistent off day that you have, just have that be consistent. The other thing I thought was great, as you said, that get everyone to help, get everyone involved, whether it's, somebody's, chopping the vegetables, or someone's, just opening the packages, or you could have simple jobs maybe for the kids, or simple jobs for people that maybe aren't. I'm not like a Bobby Flay, I'm more of a Chef Boyardee, but do what you can and make it. And to the next point, I think you said just keep it simple, and especially in the beginning. I know even with myself, it was kind of very nerve-wracking for me, even just to like start cooking like ground meat and things that seem really simple. I think for a lot of people are afraid they're going to like waste the meat or mess it up. But the more you do it, like anything else, like with training, like the more times you do it, you kind of figure out techniques, you figure out how to make it better, you feel how to make it more efficient. And the more you practice it, I think you just get better and better at it. So maybe, can you remember a time when you first started cooking where you like really had no idea what you were doing, and what are some maybe like things that you learned that like helped along the way to make things, whether maybe a little bit more efficient or just a little bit like easier in general?
When you start going by recipes, somebody gives you a recipe, somebody's telling you, oh, you have to try this, you have to try that. What it comes down to is take a look at it, see what's in it. Does it make sense? Is it going to last for the week? Is it going to be like longevity? Is it going to work for the entire week? Can you make it in bulk? Does everybody going to like it? Or is it just something that you're going to like? Just keep it simple. If there's 6 different ingredients in it, is there a way that you can knock it down to 3 different ingredients and just bang it out in 15 minutes nice and easy? That works. Can you freeze it? Is it something that you can make and partition it up and freeze it, that you can take it out whenever you need it? That's a plus. That's always a plus. Don't be overwhelmed.
If someone's like really new to cooking, like are there any like techniques, or like, I know you mentioned kind of grilling and stuff, is there any like kind of go-to things that you find are like easier for someone that really doesn't have a lot of experience?
Unless you're going to prepare and cook fresh produce right then and there the day you buy it, it's going to sit and it's going to go bad. You're going to waste money. Buy frozen. Frozen is just as good as fresh. They pick it and they flash freeze it when it's at the peak of its prime. So it's just as good, and it stays around a lot longer until you need it. So
what are some examples of some produce items that you personally get like maybe frozen? Or
I do broccoli all the time, spinach, kale. Kale's a big one that goes bad a lot, very quickly. But when it's frozen, it works a lot better when it's frozen. You have it. Actually, even fruits too. My family is like for making smoothies and stuff like that, so all that stuff is frozen, and I look at it as I'm not wasting money because I bought it, nobody used it. Comes Friday, I'm throwing it out. I'm throwing money out.
That's one thing I'm good for. If there's anything, things that are about to go bad, I just eat them. But I think that's a good point. I think sometimes like you get on this health kick and you get like, oh, I'm going to get like 5 bags of spinach, and then all of a sudden it's like Friday and you haven't touched it. Mm-hmm. So figuring out like also I think what foods you like, and then if maybe there's some things that you're maybe new to trying and stuff, I think there's nothing wrong with getting some frozen. I think some maybe high-end chefs might kind of like I don't know, maybe judge us, but I think you got to think what's practical and what's going to be long term. So I know with myself personally, I tend to like just kind of do more of my meat and my protein sources. I do those more like fresh and things like that, and I kind of do those as needed. Especially as weightlifters, a lot of times we're conscious of hitting a certain protein requirement per day. And things like veggies and stuff maybe are like secondary, and maybe they're like more of a side dish. So those things could be better served as like more of a frozen variety, since maybe you're not going through tons and tons of spinach or tons and tons of broccoli on a day-to-day basis. So I think that's some great options for kind of your like kind of fruit and veggies category. And in terms of maybe cooking some meats, I know you mentioned like doing some chicken in bulk and steak and ground beef. Like what are some easy ways that people can prepare some of these common protein sources that you found?
if you're looking to go easy and not have to clean up a huge mess, the grill works awesome for anything. Anything the grill works. If you have an Instapot, you can do anything in the Instapot. In 40 minutes, you can have chicken falling apart. You can have pork tenderloin shredded. I mean, it works. It's the easiest thing. If you don't have an Instapot and you have a slow cooker, okay, you're going to set it in the morning, and probably by mid-afternoon, you're good to go, and you have all of that made and everything done, and it's hands off. It's easy. If you have the time and you know how to use your stove, and you're good with the frying pan, and you can saute stuff, ground beef, ground chicken, ground turkey, saute it up in bulks. Nice and easy.
Yeah, I mean, I've been, for the last probably 3 years, I've been kind of probably just doing a ton of ground beef almost daily. That's worked out really well for me. And kind of bouncing back off Lisa's point, sometimes, I know she mentioned seasonings as well. Sometimes like these like kind of, whether it's like, a little red chili flake or some different hot sauces and stuff with like kind of minimal ingredients. For me, it almost feels like I'm having a different meal, even though I'm having the same protein source like over and over again. So it kind of can make things a little bit more exciting if you kind of are afraid of things kind of becoming more dull. I know you mentioned, I want to kind of go back to the Instapot, because that's something that I haven't in just like the slow cookers and stuff. So how big would you recommend maybe, so let's say someone's, they go through a lot of protein, maybe they're getting like 150, 200 grams of protein a day. They might be having like, a pound of meat a day. How much, I guess, meat can you put in that thing at one time? And I guess how have you used that personally with yourself?
I have a medium-sized Instapot. There's a 3-quart, I believe. I have a 6-quart. I can easily fit 8 pounds of chicken in it. Boneless chicken breast, 8 pounds, completely all with a rub on them, and in 40 minutes, it sweats out. No matter how lean that chicken is, it will sweat it out. There'll be a good 2 cups of liquid that pulls out of that, and that chicken will fall apart. And you can take what you need that you know you're going to use, and the rest of it, you can freeze it if you want to. And because it thaws out great. It thaws out really nice.
I know some people, I'm not really as picky with this. I know some people are worried about if they're letting their meat after they prep it. Like, how long would you say, if you're doing a chicken or like a beef dish, that you can kind of let that sit in your fridge for?
I'm the wrong person to ask that.
Well, no,
I look at it as that I put a lot of work into what it is that I cook. So for me at home, I'll start cleaning stuff out after the week, who didn't get to eat what or whatnot, and I'll say, okay, the chicken's still there, it's good. I'm going to still eat it. It's good. Basically,
you think
7 days.
Okay, so that's
7 days is the rule of thumb. If you haven't eaten it, your protein, and that doesn't include fish. If you haven't eaten it, chicken, pork, turkey, beef, if you haven't eaten it in 7 days, get rid of it. You're not going to eat it. No matter how many times you talk yourself into it, you're not going to eat it.
So I think good rule of thumb, if it's more than if you're figure out what you're going to use for the week, and then you could freeze the rest if you're doing it in bulk. So I think that's because I think sometimes people are afraid, am I going to waste it? Is it going to go bad? So I think working on, and I think it just works out nicely because a lot of times our schedules are based on a weekly basis. Our training is usually based on a weekly basis, so you can kind of figure out your food on a weekly basis as well. So I think those are all good strategies.
The good thing is if you're going to do in bulk, I happen to work with chicken and turkey a lot. So when you're going to do them in bulk, if you have an idea of your family, what you kind of want to make for the week, and you're making that much, pull some of that aside. Somebody gets home from work late, your training ran late, the kids had a PTA meeting, sports ran late. How many times is it 7 o'clock at night and you're like, I can't be bothered, I don't want to cook dinner, I'm not in the mood to start from square one? Well, the worst part of it is you're going to run out. You're going to spend money now after you've already gone food shopping and you've spent money on groceries. So your meat is already done. It's not hard to take a package of frozen vegetables and throw it in the microwave. That's not hard. That's easy. And your dinner is there. I've grilled chicken, and my 15-year-old son will be like, I don't want chicken. I can't be bothered. I take that chicken breast and I'll dice it up, or I'll strip it up. And I throw some tortillas in the microwave, and I'm like, look, you got chicken tacos. I'm going to have chicken breast, but you're going to take that chicken and you're going to have chicken tacos. I just made 2 completely different meals out of the same thing.
Yeah,
works.
I think that's good. That's like a nice way to compromise too. I think for the parents out there that maybe they're trying to eat healthy and maybe the kids are a little bit pickier, or maybe their significant others a little pickier, because that happens too. So I think that's a really good. I like that a lot. So you can kind of use that protein source, and then you can kind of present it in different ways to make it just palatable and for the other person involved.
Your food shouldn't be boring. Shouldn't be a chore.
I know you mentioned you keep mentioning wasting money, talking about money. A lot. I think one of the biggest things I hear all the time is, eating healthy is more expensive.
No, it's not.
So can you talk to that a little bit, or so a lot of people they use that as a crutch. Eating fresh, that's going to cost me more money. So can you maybe talk about maybe the finances part of it?
What kind of guideline you have? If you do eat meat, if you don't eat meat, if you're a vegetarian, if you're a vegan, I don't care what it is. When you go into a supermarket, you're going to shop the perimeter of the supermarket. You're going to shop your meat department, your dairy department, your produce department. That's what you're going to shop, because everything in the middle is in the middle because it gets forgotten about. It's processed. It's got a live-by date on it. It comes in a box. It's loaded in sodium to stay the way that it is. So, of course, that's what's going to cost you the most amount of money. To go ahead and to buy vegetables and fruits and your meats. Your meats will probably be the most expensive thing that you do, depending on how you shop for your meats. You're going to go organic or grass-fed or, everyday butcher cut. That's your own preference. That's entirely up to you. But grocery shopping shouldn't be expensive at all. There's no reason for it. And no matter what amount of money it is that you're going to spend, comes the end of the week, you have to be held accountable for the fact that if you did not cook it, if you did not prep it, you just took that money and opened the window and threw it out.
I think when you kind of are looking at what you're spending when you're eating out, it's always a no-brainer. Even if you're getting probably the most expensive grass-fed, organic, premium cuts of meat, it's still going to be less expensive than eating out consistently. The other thing I think is an important point, to talk about too is what's the cost of, eating out all the time in terms of weight gain, in terms of health down the road. Because obviously, in this, we have this obesity problem, and that's going to be costing you a lot of money if you're 50, 100 pounds overweight. Think about what that's costing you. So don't just think about also just the short term. Think about long term, how it's going to affect your finances in terms of not just what it costs for the food, but what's going to cost you from a healthcare standpoint as well. I think that's really important because we kind of tend to focus on just the short term, but I think that's a big myth that doesn't really make sense to me. But
it's a nice treat. You're cooking all week long. The week is crazy and whatnot. Let's get the family together. Everybody's not running in 50 different directions. You can all sit at one table, and you don't have to worry about cooking or concentrating.
Yeah.
You can have a conversation. The thing is, what you have to remember is, when you're cooking, you know what you're putting in your food. You know if you're putting, Evo in your food. You know if you're putting salt in your food. When you go out and it might taste great, you don't know what was put into it. Nobody's trying to poison you. You can't account for it. So if you are on a weight loss or on a fat loss and you're trying to account for that, It's huge, because even if you're logging and you say you're using a MyFitnessPal, those restaurants are not all logged in there. It's a guesstimation. It really is. But it's good for a treat. Everybody deserves a treat. Your body, you can't be strict all the time. You need to have a treat every now and then. So it's nice. Just pick your battles.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that's a good way to look at it. I think the point is of that discussion, part of the discussion is that going out to eat should be a treat. It should be for special occasion. It should be maybe something, it is a social time, but that shouldn't be something that you're doing every single day. That's when it can become a problem, or every single weekend. Make it a special thing, and but whatever, 80, 90% of the time, focus on good, healthy prep meals for yourself. Okay. For people, so I want to talk about planning a little bit. So everyone's got different schedules, obviously. So one of the recurring themes I keep hearing is pick things you like, make it work for you, make it work for your family. So I think all that's great. So when you're maybe working with somebody personally or for yourself, like how are you planning around the week? And then maybe if you know you have something, a trip coming up, or you have some sort of event, how does that kind of factor in? So what is your process through planning your week? Okay, I'm going to shop. Like, what goes on your shopping list, and how are you? Because I think that could be very daunting too. Like, I know what's good, but how do I know how much to buy? How do I know how much I need for the week? And how do you go about planning for your meals for the week for yourself and your family?
For the most part, you kind of have a gist of how much you're going to go through of things. What members of your family is their go-to, what they're going to grab, what they're going to eat the most. And if you're the one who's doing the grocery shopping, or you have a say in the grocery shopping, make a list. Have a plan. Don't go into the supermarket willy-nilly, because you're going to grab everything. So always have a plan. Even if it's 5 things, even if it's what your meat's going to be that you need for the week, your vegetables, and your dairy that you're going to need, everything else will fill in according to as you're walking around and you say, I can add this, I can add that, I have time to make this. That should be what the plan is. If it's just you know what your schedule is. You know what you have coming up. You have a business meeting, you have a meet, whatever it is that you might be, your training, what you're going to need to fuel all of that. If it's the family, now you're keeping track of probably 4 other schedules, 3 other schedules that are going on in your head, who needs to be where, at what time, and what they need to eat, and keeping everybody in check. Sometimes it's a 2 grocery shopping week. I'll go at the end for the first half, and then I go again at the middle for the next half, depending on what we need to catch back up on, what we went through more of. But it's usually you just have to have a plan. So when you hit that supermarket, you know. On the other hand, I never hit one supermarket. And I'm probably not the only one out there that doesn't just go to one supermarket.
You'll probably find there's certain places
Right.
where you get certain things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There are certain supermarkets that their produce is amazing, and everything else is not that great.
Yeah.
And there's another one where their prices are great, but do they really have what I need? Like, we're between work and the
Yeah.
house, chicken is huge. Chicken should not be expensive. There's 2 supermarkets that I go to because chicken is like $1.88 a pound. You should not be paying $3 and $4 a pound for chicken. That's ridiculous.
So I think
But it's shopping around.
Yeah, part of that's experience. I think don't be afraid to especially if, I over the last couple of years I've moved a couple of times, and you got to get familiar with the area. So don't be afraid the first couple of times where you're shopping and meal prepping. Go in a couple different supermarkets and shop around, see what the deals are, see what what's better. And sometimes the first couple of times you're not really sure. I like to make a lot of training analogies. It just makes sense for me. Hopefully, people listening. So just like you wouldn't most people listening are not going to just go to the gym without some sort of program, without some sort of plan. You're going to know what your intent of the day is. You're going to know what your goal is for the day. You're going to have an idea of what your sets and reps are going to be for the day. Just like you shouldn't go into the grocery store blind, have that list, whether it's written or on your phone, have an idea of what you're going to get. Just like in training, you might throw an audible here and there if you're feeling really good, or if maybe you see a really good deal, maybe you're like, maybe I'm going to try this, this lean beef because it's on sale or whatever. That's fine to throw an audible here and there, but get what you need first, get done what your goal is and what's on the list. And if maybe you see something that might fit your plan, I think that's okay to try things and experiment. And I think just have a list, be prepared. And if you're looking in your shopping and maybe something catches your eye, especially if you're hungry, just always ask yourself, how does this help? How does this hurt? So if something looks really tasty and maybe it's a nice treat, ask yourself, does it help me toward my goal? Is it going to hurt me in the long term? So that could be a tough thing. And I think going back to Lisa's point, I think if you shop around the perimeter, first and foremost, I think you're going to be pretty good. But just ask yourself, is this item going to help me toward my goals? Ask yourself that. And if you could truthfully answer that question, then maybe you get a pass and throw it in the basket. So I think that's some good shopping tips. Don't be afraid to try different stores. Different stores have different specialties. Anything else to add? So we kind of went over why prepping is important, how to shop. We talked about easy ways to cook in bulk, planning. anything that we missed on those topics, or anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah.
So I think that was a good
Basics on it.
general overview. So one of the things that we were talking about before the recording is, sometimes you're going to sacrifice, if things are busy, depending on your schedule, sometimes you might sacrifice a little bit of convenience for what's optimal in terms of health and things like that. So you have to there might be periods of your life where things are really hectic, and maybe you have some more things that are ready to go, or maybe you have a meal prep service, or maybe you have someone else you prep food for you, and maybe it's a little bit more expensive, but you're kind of buying your time back. You're kind of saving time there. So that's also an option. So by us, like at the Costco, there's like these sous vide steaks that are like kind of medium rare and they're ready to go. So that's kind of like my go-to, like if I don't have time to prep like my meat. So there's different things like that. Obviously, there's going to be more preservatives. There's going to be more things in it maybe that are not ideal. But those things like once in a while, I think are fine. And then obviously if you can kind of go fresh more often, I think that's better. So it kind of depends. Like nothing's going to be like perfect all the time, but try to work towards more optimal most of the time. And then I think don't beat yourself up. Don't try and be perfect day one. And just like with training, you don't start with a 500-pound squat. You don't start with 5 plates in the bar. You start with the empty bar, and you kind of add a little bit each time. So when it comes to meal prep and nutrition, same, you want to take a very slow, methodical approach. So what I want to do is, and I'm happy to answer some questions as well as Lisa. I just want to open the floor if you guys have any questions yourself.
When you make ground beef, what kind of spices do you put in it?
So the question is, when we're making a ground beef, what kind of spices do you use, and what do you recommend to help make it a little bit more flavorful and change it up?
Anything that you want. You can add scallions, onions, red peppers to them. They stay real well on the long end. And dry rubs. Anything. I like McCormick's. They have some great ones. They have like a molasses bacon that's really good. They go from sweet to spicy. And the good thing is that if it's just the two of you, and say you're going to do 2 pounds of ground beef for the week, split it in half. You can do 2 different rubs. I will usually toss it with the dry rub before I start cooking it. Cook it, drain it, and then hit it again with the rub again. This way it's there. You can taste it. It's really good. But then you mix it up. So then halfway during the week, you're changing up what you're eating, and it's the same thing. It just tastes differently.
I think peppers are great because they're like low calorie and they can add a lot of flavor. And we kind of we mentioned in passing like hot sauces and things like that. I think another benefit of some of like the spicier type sauces, indirectly, I know with myself sometimes, like some of us are not as great at drinking water, and having a little bit of like a spicier food you'll naturally want to drink a little bit more water too. So that's kind of like just an added side benefit for people that struggle with hydration. I know with myself sometimes I don't want to just have like a whole liter of water in the morning, but having like a little like a spicy rub or something on my meat or eggs, that can kind of help kind of force me to kind of drink a little bit more and kind of remind, I want to take a drink of water, I want to hydrate before I train. So I think that's like another added benefit. But yeah, I think there's so many different like rubs and spices out there, and I think it's good to try it. And I think things like peppers and onions and things like that, they're not going to really add a lot of calories. They're going to add maybe some micronutrients, and they can make your
stuff like that. Peppers and onions you can cut and shred up, whether you want to dice them or cut them up at the beginning of the week. They're hearty vegetables. They'll stay. The good things about the peppers are, if you're in that like crunchy snacking kind of mood, you go into the refrigerator and they're there. If a vegetable is cut up, it's clean and it's done and ready to go, you will have a tendency to emanate to that before you grab chips or something else. So it's a lot better. Peppers are very high in vitamin A, which is really good.
Yeah, I think those the bell peppers are a great option for.
And everybody's different with them. Excuse me, John. Everybody's different. Like the older I've gotten, I can't do green. They repeat on me, along with a lot of other people that I know of. But yellow and orange and red, those are good to go. Those are definitely good to go.
And how about with the grilling time to keep them moist versus we tend to marinate chicken breasts before we were going to put them on the grill? And you would tell them, the rubs are...
Okay, if you're gonna marinate in a sauce, anything with a vinegar base to it, you cannot marinate it long. The vinegar will actually start to cook the raw chicken. So it's one of those like maybe 20 minutes, maybe, and then you're gonna throw it right onto the grill or you're gonna cook it right away. Anything else that is a thicker sauce with a more of a molasses kind of base to it, that's the taste. That really is. The longer you marinate it, if you marinate it overnight, when you go to cook it, I would literally take it and like squeegee it out because it's already soaked into the meat. And then when you cook it, it'll be great and you won't have all that excess on it.
Good, thank you.
So you kind of touched on this before a little bit, but just to kind of increase that adherency to your diet, do you find yourself cooking different types of meat throughout the week, or do you dress it kind of like what you were saying before? Do you take one type of meat and dress it different ways to kind of...
That's a personal preference. If there are several meats that you like, if you like doing turkey and you like doing beef, and those are the two that you like, then that's what you're going to prep. For me, doing like a 93.7 lean ground turkey, I'll do that. I'll do chicken breast. I'll do a ground chicken. Those are my go-to because I can dress those up really differently with teenagers and a husband who's training and working, and then myself, I can dress it up different. Ground can go from, just getting thrown in with eggs, or it can get turned into tacos, or it can get thrown onto a salad. However the night winds up being, that's what it goes to. And chicken breast, I usually grill plain. And when you go to reheat it, which doesn't take much to reheat it, I'll take a rub and I will rub it in my hands to like, not liquefy the rub, but kind of make it moist so it's not so dry. And I'll literally manhandle each chicken breast that I'm gonna use and then heat it up. So I don't have to have everything marinated if I don't know what we're gonna be eating. And it just changes it up.
So the question was about compliance and whether it may be a good strategy to kind of rotate different protein sources, or what it might be better to just dress the protein sources and prepare them differently. I think what I would do in that case, I know for myself, I tend to, I just enjoy red meat more than a lot of the poultry and stuff. So first off, it's obviously got to fit your diet and your goals, but I think it's good to when you're working with somebody or for yourself, just literally try to rank and write a list of what you're kind of like willing to eat and what you're not willing to eat. And I think a lot of times when it comes to actual dieting, I think people think they have to eat things they don't like. So I think first go to the stuff that you like that's going to fit your goals. And I know with myself, if you enjoy something, it's not going to be as big a deal, kind of just eating that same protein source over and over again. I know for myself, if I was forced to have chicken every day, that would be tough for me personally. So everyone's different. Some people may that's their go-to thing, but I do a lot of eggs and steak and red meat, and I have no problem having a steak every day if I have to. So everyone's different, and it's got to meet your goals, and obviously some of the red meat's going to be a little bit more higher calories, so that's a consideration. But so that's just kind of my advice there, is just actually figure out what you actually like, and don't be afraid to diet on the foods you like, and as long as it's going to meet your calorie requirements and your micronutrient requirements, I think that's totally fine.
I know that everybody does traditional for breakfast. I know, depending on my day, tuna might be my breakfast. It's not always eggs or oatmeal or whatever it might be. But if eggs are your go-to and you're flying out the door to get to work, you can prep them. You absolutely can prep them. I do it on a daily basis. You can do an egg white omelet that all you do is take it out of the refrigerator, heat it up, and you're good to go. My husband goes into the city at least 2 to 3 times a week, that he runs out of the house by 8 o'clock in the morning. I need him to eat. When your protein is up, you won't be hungry. Your body takes longer to process that protein, so you won't be hungry sooner. You'll hold out a lot longer. So I make sure that he's got something substantial before he runs out the door. So muffin tins, those silicone muffin tins are great. if you're not counting macros, I am, I know John is, it depends on what it is that your goals are. If you're not counting macros and you're looking to just make a blanket or breakfast, take a dozen eggs. Half of them crack, the other half just do the whites and blend the whole gosh darn thing together. Now take one of those silicone muffin tins, right? Add some peppers to them. Add some onions to them in each cup. Make some bacon if you want, dice it all up, throw that into it as well. Take a ladle and start ladling the egg into all of it and throw it in the oven at 350. 15, 20 minutes, the whole thing will pop up. You pull them out, 2 or 3 of them, stick them in a container. You're good to go every morning. You have breakfast. You can't get any more portable than that. You could even eat it cold. Yeah, I know, it sounds gross, but you can. Eggs like that are not so bad cold. You can eat it cold. You can take it and go and run, and it works. But even breakfast can be prepped. Don't leave it out. It's like for some reason, it's the one meal that nobody wants to prep, but it can be prepped. It can be done.
Yeah, and I want to, for people listening too, I liked what you said too. Like, don't feel like you have to have a breakfast food for breakfast. Like, just I think that's another great point. You could have eggs for dinner. You could have steak for breakfast. You could have chicken. I think it's okay to think outside the box, even if it's not maybe outside. It's outside the norm. That's totally okay if it fits your goals and it's something you enjoy. So, you have a question?
So you mentioned that your husband is the city. And, the days that I break down, or it's like the days that are harder, the days when I'm on the road. Like most days, I'm in the office and I can microwave and I can prep stuff. But as far as when you're on the road and you eat something like room temperature, stuff you just eat, and you're not going to have the ability to prep it. So what are some of the better things you could do on those days so you're not eating like cold spinach and rubbery chicken out of fresh off an ice pack?
On days like that, take it out of the ice pack. Don't leave it into the ice pack. Chicken isn't all that bad, depending on how you're prepping it when it's cold. If you're shredding it, if you're grilling it, you can have it room temperature. It's not bad. Omelets, like egg cups, scrambled eggs, add chicken in with it. Add beef in with it. It doesn't make a difference. You can eat that at room temperature. That's absolutely fine. I know that there are certain supermarkets that have a lot of great clean products that you can buy, wraps and stuff like that. So get one of those. You can throw raw vegetables in it, and then throw whatever your protein is into it, and you're good to go. If you don't mind putting together tuna on the side, get tuna in water, not tuna in oil. It's less messy. Do tuna in water. Honestly, you got to go savage, go for it. You're sitting in the car and you're running from appointment to appointment. You have your wrap, you got your vegetables, throw it together, crack open the tuna, drain it out the door, and throw it into what you're eating. Throw some mustard in with it, throw some sriracha sauce into it. You're good to go. You're absolutely good to go. Seriously, when you're on the road, the other thing is if you are stuck, if you really are stuck, knowing where you can go that you can get a good, clean meal. But it's going to cost you. That's the downfall. I know that when my husband gets stuck in the city, and sometimes he's bringing a lot of equipment in the city, and to bring food in with him it's impractical. He can't. Panera is clean. Pret in the city is clean. They're clean meals. It's sweet potatoes, it's quinoa, it's beets, it's legumes. They're all good things that your body really does need, that if you had to prep, you might not have the time to do it. So you can get it. It works.
I was real quick before. So there's a couple of ways that I would approach that personally, and I can tell you what I do, like when I'm traveling, even. Like so we have the Arnold coming up, and obviously we're gonna have a kitchen, so we're gonna have time to prep and things. But even still, I'm just packing some healthy, quote unquote, snacks and stuff. So there's like a lot of it's called a biltong, and like peri peri. There's different like jerkies. It's like South African, like air dried. There's pretty low like preservatives and things like that. So I'm just kind of planning ahead and prepping that kind of stuff. There's other sometimes too, depending on the day. Like I know, like when I'm coaching at a meet, I might just like choose, like I know I'm going to be running around. I might just choose to I'm going to fast for these like whatever 12 hours, and I'm just going to plan not to eat for this time, and I'm going to make up my calories later. That's not always ideal, but that's kind of I think where like fasting or something might be a strategy, if that works for you. And I think just do your best if you're in a pinch. We kind of were joking the other day, but like I was like literally had to, open up my tuna can with scissors. It's not really ideal, but I sometimes you just do what you got to do. And going back to my point, that's where the convenient stuff, like I said, the pre-made, maybe like get some of the pre-made. Like I don't mind. I eat my steak cold, and I think it tastes fine, tastes good. So you may have to like, okay, what are some things that you don't mind eating cold? And maybe that's like what you do on those days. So there's a lot of different, there's no like right or wrong answer. You got to figure out what works for you, and you got to experiment. But what you don't want to do is throw your hands up and then just go to McDonald's or whatever. And that's just what you do. And that's what like most people do. So there's always a better choice. So just try to make the best choice you can. And if you do fall off, when you just always remember, it's just like with a workout. If you have a bad workout, you're one good workout away from being back on track. So if you have a bad meal, if you make a mistake, you're one meal for get back on track. So I think that's just a good mindset when you're
Keep snacks on.
when you're really busy.
Always keep snacks. Keep them in the car. Keep them in your briefcase. Keep them at work. I know Ziploc makes these Ziploc bags that have measure lines on them. Like it says half a cup, quarter cup, full cup, which is great. So go to any one of the stores, or I'm a queen of Amazon. Get your big thing of cran raisins or apricots and walnuts and almonds and stuff like that, and make yourself like a snack, and always keep them around and on you. Benefit is all those dried fruits are really high in antioxidants. They're really good for you. The nuts, especially walnuts, they're an anti-inflammatory. So with powerlifters, you want that. You don't want to be hurting and in pain. So if you're snacking on something that's going to benefit you, that works even better. That's a win-win on both sides. Snacks are important, always, always important. That is the kind of prep that if you can find a good recipe for a homemade granola bar or something, put the effort into that. That might take a little bit more time, but do it, make it. You can make huge batches of it, and you could have it for 2 weeks. That's prep that's worthwhile to take that time.
Cool. Yeah, I think especially the dried fruit's a great idea if you're running and then you are going from the city to train and you do want to get some carbs in you or something. I think that's a great idea. And I know Nick, you had a question or a comment.
So for people that are they're going kind of running to the grocery store and they see all these different types of meats, 80% lean, 20% fat. In your opinion, do you shoot for as someone who kind of follows their macros, do you prefer to get your fats from meats, or do you prefer to get your fats from like avocados, nuts, or it doesn't really matter? What's kind of your take on that?
So that's good. My answer to that is, after doing this for so long, when I look at food, I look at it and say, what is it going to do for me? This is what I'm doing. My food is going to be my fuel. It's going to run my engine. What's going to be the best fuel to run that engine? How is it going to benefit for me? No. The fats from my meat, I don't want. So I go for the leanest. I'll go for the 93.7 anytime possible. I'm willing to pay that extra money to not have the fats that are in the meats. I would rather have the avocados. I would rather have the fats from fish is different. Those are omega-3s. I want those. Fish is a completely different story. But as far as my meats are concerned, no. I would rather have the avocados. I'd rather have the nuts. I'd rather have avocado oil or coconut oil or Evo when I work, when I'm cooking with it. That's what I would rather have. They are naturally a cleaner fat. They're going to work more beneficial to you than the fat from an animal.
I would say I agree with all that. I think you also got to ask what's the goal too. So if you're talking about a hard gainer, that's really struggling to put weight on and they want to be in a calorie surplus, maybe having a slightly fattier meat just to get some more calories in could be a benefit. For me personally as well, I want to I want to try to save some I only have so much fat I could have. So I'm gonna again go for like a 93% or even a 96% like lean beef because that's gonna allow me to have more flexibility throughout the day. So you also want to think about like what are the micronutrients, what are the nutrients in the food. So something like an egg yolk has a ton of nutrients in it. So even though it's like quote unquote like high in fat, there's a ton of nutrients in like an egg yolk. So that's like fat whereas someone else might be getting fat from like sausage or something, a processed meat. You're not really getting a lot of benefit like from something like that. So if I could save some of my, my calories for some more nutrient dense foods like the avocado, like the nuts, and you could afford to have those in your diet, I think let's get some more let's get some more different types of foods in there, so you can get more not just it should fit your macros, but also it should give you that micronutrient nutrition, your vitamins, your minerals. We mentioned antioxidants and things, so also consider like what's also like in the food besides just the fat content.
Do you track your cooking oil?
Believe it or not, when I first started 4 years ago, yes. When you're first starting, you're taught you track everything. As the time goes on, I don't use that much that it affects me personally because I've been doing it for so long. On most days, I'll just track, unless I have a specific goal. My goals have been a lot different than most. Most people go to track because they are overweight and they're looking to lose for whatever their sport or whatever it is that they do. I was a skinny girl that was looking to put weight on. So it was how to put the right weight on, how to keep it on, and how to work with it that it stayed on. Now at this point, it's more making sure that I keep a guideline with my carbs. Am I hitting all my protein? My protein is what's important. That's going to be my repair. So that's what I go for. Avocados are a pain in the neck. They either are hard as stone or they go mushy like that. I actually found for my daughter, it's diced frozen avocado because she uses it in her smoothies. If you thaw it out, you can add it to just about anything, and it's dirt cheap. In Levittown, there's a Walmart market. Phenomenal. They're frozen stuff like vegetables and fruits and avocados and stuff like that. They have the most amazing variety that I would never have thought of. And I usually go there with her because she is vegan. So, and to get fresh for her when she's so picky is just a pain. Stuff would get wasted so much. So frozen is better.
Avocados, though, I found out as soon as they get a little soft, keep them in the fridge and they stay
Yes. And if you do cut them, keep the nut with it and everything. Yeah. And if you need them to ripen quicker, put them with apples.
Got time for one more. Okay, that's fine. Lisa, for people listening, where can they, if they want to follow you or find out more about your service, where can they find you?
I'm on Instagram. It's the Meal Prep Lady 2017 on Instagram. All my meals are posted up there, and you can message me whenever you have a question.
So what's the best way to contact you? Email or DM or what's?
Either way, I answer
Okay.
everything. So either way, Instagram works a lot easier than Facebook. So it's a lot easier to get in touch with me.
That's fine. Just like to always people. So thank you guys so much for listening. If this podcast helped you, please give it a 5-star review. It helps other people find us. If you know somebody who needs some advice on meal prepping, please share this podcast with them. Thank you guys so much for listening. Until next time, stay strong. We'll see you soon.